The Indiana Fever just put up 106 points against the New York Liberty, beat a championship contender by 14, and somehow, the final score still isn't the craziest part of what happened. Because this wasn't simply a night where Caitlin Clark got hot, or Kelsey Mitchell caught fire, or Indiana happened to find the perfect matchup. Something much bigger was unfolding. Sophie Cunningham walked into this game carrying an entirely different kind of pressure. Just days earlier, her name had been at the center of a massive public controversy. Before tip-off, the Fever were dealing with another wave of emotion, with head coach Stephanie White facing a hostile reception inside her own building. And then the ball went up. What happened next looked almost surreal. Cunningham started firing with confidence, eventually knocking down 4 of 5 three-pointers. Mitchell was nearly unstoppable, pouring in 28 points with remarkable efficiency. And Clark wasn't just scoring, she was adding another chapter to a record book she's been rewriting at a ridiculous pace. The Liberty weren't supposed to be an easy opponent. They're a championship contender. Yet Indiana kept stretching the lead, kept finding open shots, and kept making New York pay for every defensive mistake. And that's what makes this night so fascinating. The story isn't just that the Fever won. It's how a team surrounded by noise, pressure, and controversy responded when the lights came on. Instead of falling apart, Indiana looked connected, aggressive, and completely locked in. The question now isn't whether this was an impressive win. It's what this performance revealed about the Fever when everything around them seemed determined to pull them apart. 3 days earlier, Sophie Cunningham wasn't preparing for a matchup with one of the league's best teams. She was dealing with a completely different kind of pressure. During Indiana's game against Chicago, Cunningham was struck across the face and neck by Chendi Carter-Carrington on a layup attempt. The play resulted in an ejection, and the incident immediately exploded beyond the basketball court. Carrington later posted white privilege from the locker room and tagged the Fever, turning an already heated moment into a much larger public controversy. Cunningham's name was suddenly everywhere, and the reaction around her became far bigger than the original play. Some people defended her. Others blamed her. The debate spread across social media and into national coverage, with former NBA players and lawmakers weighing in. But through all of that noise, Cunningham still had to do the one thing that mattered when the next game arrived: play basketball. And the pressure didn't stop with her. Before the Liberty game even began, Stephanie White walked into a media session and was met with boos from her own home crowd. The Fever coach was being forced to answer questions about the controversy, player safety, and the growing criticism surrounding the team. White didn't retreat. She defended her players and made it clear that their health, safety, and well-being were priorities. She acknowledged that she hadn't seen the Chicago play clearly in real time, but after watching the replay, she called it egregious. Now imagine the atmosphere. Your coach is being booed. One of your teammates is at the center of a national controversy. And waiting on the other side is the New York Liberty. Yet when the game started, the Fever didn't look divided. They looked like a team that had decided the noise could stay outside the lines. And that decision was about to become very important. And then the game started to tilt. At first, it looked like Indiana was simply getting into an offensive rhythm. Caitlin Clark was creating space, Kelsey Mitchell was attacking, and Aaliyah Boston was finding opportunities around the basket. But then Sophie Cunningham started hitting shots, and suddenly the entire floor looked different. Cunningham finished 4 of 5 from 3 for 12 points, but the most revealing number may have been her team best plus 17. Because those threes weren't just adding points. They were forcing New York to make decisions it didn't want to make. Leave Cunningham open, and she could punish the defense from deep. Close out too aggressively, and the Liberty risked opening space somewhere else. And once defenders started extending farther from the basket, Indiana's other weapons had room to attack. That's where Clark became even more dangerous. Every defensive rotation created another possibility. A closeout could turn into a driving lane. Help toward Clark could create a passing window. And if New York tried to stay home on the shooters, Indiana could simply keep moving the ball until somebody found an advantage. Meanwhile, Mitchell was creating problems of her own. She wasn't just waiting for Clark to generate everything. Mitchell attacked the defense, found her rhythm, and kept putting pressure on New York. Boston added another inside presence, giving Indiana yet another way to punish a defense that was already being stretched across the court. And that was the real turning point. Cunningham's shooting wasn't an isolated hot streak sitting in the box score. It changed the geometry of the game. The Liberty couldn't comfortably load up on Clark. They couldn't ignore Mitchell. They couldn't give Cunningham clean looks. And they couldn't protect every area of the floor at once. The Fever had too many answers. What started as a few made threes became defensive chaos for New York. The more Indiana shooters connected, the more difficult every Liberty possession became. And before long, this wasn't a competitive game anymore. It was Indiana taking control. Then the box score started telling an even bigger story. Once the Fever had taken control, the night stopped being about one win and started becoming a collection of milestones. Caitlin Clark wasn't simply putting together another strong performance. She was adding numbers to a resume moving into territory normally associated with much longer careers. Clark reached 29 career games with at least 20 points and 10 assists. The source notes that she reached that mark in only 82 career games, remarkably, putting her third all-time among WNBA guards in that category. Then came another record that she already owned, her single-season mark for games with 20 points and 10 assists. This season alone, she had reached 9 of them, while no other player in league history had recorded more than 5 in a single season. That's not a small improvement on an existing record at all. That's Clark creating separation from the record itself. The bigger career milestone was sitting underneath all of it. According to the source, Clark had moved into first place for assists through a player's first 3 WNBA seasons, despite missing most of her second season because of injury. But Clark wasn't the only one rewriting the numbers. Kelsey Mitchell extended her streak to 17 consecutive games with at least 20 points, continuing her own single-season WNBA record. She finished this game with 28 points on 11 of 16 shooting and 4 of 4 from 3. And then there's Cunningham. 4 made threes on 5 attempts in this game, 12 points, and a team-best plus 17. The source also places her at 45% from 3 among players with at least 100 attempts. Put all of that together, and the records stop feeling like separate achievements. They start looking like evidence of the same thing. Indiana had multiple players operating at an extraordinary level that night alone, too. But if you only look at Caitlin Clark's records, you miss what may have been the most important part of the entire night. This wasn't one superstar carrying everyone else. The Fever were getting contributions from everywhere, and the team records made that impossible to ignore. Start with Kelsey Mitchell. She finished with 28 points, shooting 11 of 16 from the field and a perfect 4 of 4 from 3. That's not a player piling up points through volume. That's efficiency. Mitchell was finding the right moments, attacking the openings in front of her, and making New York pay whenever the defense gave her an opportunity. And because Mitchell was producing at that level, the Liberty couldn't simply build their entire defensive plan around Clark. Then there was the bigger team milestone. Indiana reached 100 points for the 15th time this season, with 5 different Fever players finishing in double figures. That number says far more about the offense than one individual scoring line ever could. 5 players contributing at that level means the defense can't simply eliminate one option and expect the problem to disappear. And Clark and Mitchell added another piece of history together. They had now combined for 13 games this season in which both players scored at least 20 points, the most by any duo in WNBA history according to the source. That's the part that changes the conversation around Indiana. Because this isn't just Clark's team in the sense that everything depends on her. Mitchell can take over a game. Cunningham can stretch the defense. Boston can punish teams inside. And players like Lexi Hull contribute in ways that don't always dominate the headlines, including reaching 500 career rebounds in this game. The records were impressive. But the chemistry behind them may be even more important. Because when 5 players are contributing, the Fever don't need one perfect performance. They just need the whole machine to keep moving. And then the game delivered the answer to all that pregame noise. Before tip-off, Stephanie White had been booed inside her own building. She had stood at the podium defending her players, emphasizing their health, safety, and well-being while the controversy surrounding Cunningham continued to dominate the conversation. But once the game began, the Fever's response was not another statement. It was the way they played. They didn't look distracted. They didn't look fractured. They came out against New York and played with the kind of focus that made the chaos surrounding the team feel completely separate from what was happening between the lines. And afterward, Caitlin Clark reportedly made the team's position clear. There was no way they were losing that game for White. That's a powerful statement because it came after a night when the coach had been publicly challenged by people inside her own arena. Cunningham backed White publicly as well, adding another layer to what was already becoming a story about loyalty. Now, that doesn't mean the controversy caused Indiana to play better. There's no way to prove that. What we can see is what happened around it. A coach faced intense criticism. A player had spent days at the center of public debate. And instead of allowing those circumstances to become the defining image of the night, the Fever produced one of their strongest performances of the season. That created a powerful interpretation from the outside. Some people will see it as a team standing together when the pressure was highest. Others may see nothing more than a talented roster doing exactly what it was capable of doing. Either way, the contrast was impossible to miss. Before the game, there was division and noise. After the game, there was a 14-point victory over New York, 106 points on the scoreboard, and a group of players who had made their position clear without needing another long speech. The boos were loud, but the basketball was louder. So now the question becomes bigger than one night. The Fever didn't just beat the Liberty. They put up 106 points, won by 14 against a championship contender, and produced a performance packed with milestones across the roster. Clark kept adding to a record-setting career. Kelsey Mitchell continued her remarkable scoring streak. Sophie Cunningham delivered one of the most efficient shooting performances of the night, while Indiana's depth helped turn the offense into something New York simply couldn't contain. And perhaps most importantly, all of this happened while the team was surrounded by enormous outside pressure. There had been controversy. There had been boos. There had been questions about the players, the coach, and the direction of the team. But when the ball was tipped, Indiana looked united. That's what makes this performance so difficult to dismiss as just another regular season win. At the same time, one game doesn't settle everything. The playoffs are different. Defenses get more physical. Every possession carries more weight. Opponents have more time to prepare, and the weaknesses that can be hidden during a regular season stretch suddenly become targets. So maybe this was simply one spectacular night when everything went right. Or maybe it was a glimpse of what the Fever can actually become when Clark, Mitchell, Cunningham, Boston, and the rest of this roster are all clicking at the same time. The records are already in the books. The 106 points are already on the scoreboard. The 14-point win over New York is already history. But the most interesting part of this story may not have happened yet. Because if this is what Indiana looks like when everything finally comes together, the next question isn't what they just accomplished. It's what happens when they take this version of themselves into the games that matter most.